Consider what you say and how you say to match your business brand. But if someone has taken the time to pick up a phone, dial your phone number, and want to take time out of their day to talk to you, they're not going to want to leave a voice message. Time is so valuable nowadays that if someone connects with you, give them your full undivided attention.
Hey there, everybody. We're so excited to have you all here today. And we have one of my very close friends all the way from Miami. And so I'm really excited to share him with you. We hope that you caught our recent YouTube interview because it was so much fun. And I'm just really glad to have Manolo here. So I'll let Larissa share a little bit more.
Thank you, Erica, for the wonderful intro. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another one of our amazing masterclasses. Today, we have Manolo Doreste, born and raised in the home of Spanglish and cafecitos. Coming from such a vibrant city as Miami, Florida, his love for capturing life's greatest moments started at an early age. His theater background highly contributed to an ever-growing love for the arts and a desire to connect with people. Many of Manolo's experiences have allowed him to genuinely understand how powerful imagery can be and what kind of effect it can have on both its subjects and audience. He takes the role of capturing and protecting memories very seriously and possesses a strong appreciation for the extraordinary. Manolo strives for it in all he does, whether that's turning fleeting moments into everlasting memories or finding his current city's best slice of pizza while traveling. Some things that he loves are French bulldogs, water activities, traveling, and of course, pizza, specifically paired with potato chips and tajin, paired with a refreshing Coca-Cola on the side. We are so incredibly lucky to have him join us here today to share his experience in enhancing the client experience. Let's give a warm welcome to the fantastic Manolo Doreste.
First of all, that's probably one of the best intro I ever had. Thank you so much. I don't even feel like I should be here. I should just bring in someone else. That was fantastic. I'm going to start off with telling you why I'm doing this course. And to me, this course is so amazing for all business levels. It really allows you to elevate what you do and how you do it to a client of an elevated luxury experience. Does your client have to be of a luxury market? Not necessarily. It will enhance your experience and their experience with you, your company, and ideally your team members. The information I'm going to share with you is something I've tried in my business for the past several years, and it's something that really gives your client a feeling of luxury. Whether you're in that price range or not, everyone wants an enhanced experience. I am going to let you know a little bit about myself and my background, and I'll dive right into it. So I opened my business in 2001. And prior to that, I did stuff in several industries. But if I go all the way back to my beginning of life, I was always gifted with cameras. I also entered into the theater department in school and behind the scenes in school as well. So that really was a big part that developed my cinematic style and where I am now. I do about 25-ish weddings a year. So my goals for everyone today: I would love for you to take away at least 5 items from today's conversation, implement them into your business, and see how they work. So this is going to be the 3 Ps of enhancing the client experience. And many people will ask, what are the 3 Ps? They're not pizza, it's not potato chips, and it's not pepperoni, but all those Ps are some of my favorite. So the first one is leading up to your consultation. The second one is present, creating connection during your consultation. And the third one is going to be post, standing out and following up after your consultation with your client. So one thing I talk about in the pre-section is going to be your language. None of these are better than the other. They're just an observation and a difference. Are you speaking as someone who you would speak to at a supermarket? Or are you speaking to someone that shops at Saks Fifth Avenue? The languages are different. Your emails, the verbiage you use, and the collateral you deliver, whether physical or digital. If someone calls you, are you picking up every single phone call for your business? Are you sending it to voicemail? These are very important. I know often if I call a business and I get a voicemail, I'm not so inclined to leave a message. So it's important that you pick up your phone as quickly as you can to take care of that client who's calling you. If you're not able to do this, highly recommend either an answering service or a virtual assistant. But if someone has taken the time to pick up a phone, dial your phone number, and want to take time out of their day to talk to you, they're not going to want to leave a voice message. So phone calls are very important, especially now in day and age when people DM or text or email, that if they've taken the highest level of interest to call you, figure out how to make sure you connect with them. And when you're connecting with them, you should have an undivided attention. You should be taking notes of what they're saying, not asking them to repeat what they've already said. Time is so valuable nowadays that if someone connects with you, give them your full undivided attention. When you actually get a phone call and you're answering it, and it's a business line, you make sure you are conscious with the speed of your message, the tone of your message, and the pitch. Hello might not really cut it. If someone calls me, I'm saying, thank you for calling. This is Manolo speaking. How can I help you? That's how I decide to brand my business voice. Make sure your business voice matches you. If it's a little more classic or traditional, let the words you say match that. If it's a little more upbeat and friendly and young, make it match that. Consider what you say and how you say to match your business brand. And make sure it's concise. Again, time is very valuable. So make sure your greeting is to the point. Don't give me a 30, 45-second introduction when I just want to talk to you. As I mentioned earlier, I want you to acknowledge your client's information and listen actively and take notes. And when you're done, do a really quick recap and affirmative action. Thank you for your time. I'm going to follow up within 24 hours, and this is what I'm going to send you. And make sure you deliver that. Don't fall outside of that because they're not going to gain your trust by having you give them information and not follow through with it. Emails to me are very important because they're time savers. Whether you have it in an automated system or you have them in a draft, and definitely have them in your drafts, make sure it gives the information they're asking for. Make sure it gives them the opportunity to see how to follow up with you, and make sure you thank them for their time. One of the important sections I like is the words you use. Are you saying thanks or are you saying thank you? Are you saying you're welcome or are you saying my pleasure? Are you saying employee or are you saying colleague, associate, or team member? Are you saying I'm sorry or I appreciate your time? Are you saying packages or the word collections or menu? Are you saying the word let me do this or allow me? Hold on or one moment, please. Those are small changes in the words you use, but that language makes a difference in how your client hears what you're telling them. So there's a lot of little things you could consider in your business and the words you use. What is also important is educating your clients. Educate them a little bit about what you do and how you run your business so they know what to expect. Example, operating hours. You might have in your email signature so they know what to expect from you. You could also let them know what your reply times are. I like to give my clients the opportunity of a 72-hour hold when they inquire for services. That gives them a little breathing space. It gives them a little time to know that I'm not pushing them and saying they have to make a decision in this moment, right? Also, let them know a little about your process, how you work with a client, and what your time invested looks like. We're going to need 2 days to fill this, or we're going to need this much information from you in order to fulfill the services, or our initial consultation is going to take an hour to an hour and a half. Let them know what they're signing up for, so when they do move forward to the next process, they have an understanding what to expect, right? I think it's also important on the initial connection, you ask what you need for, and I'll tell you what I mean by that. In the beginning of my career, when a client would come into my office space, I would have them fill out a form, almost like you do at the doctor's, right? And I would ask for a lot of information that I realized later I didn't need unless they were going to move forward with a contract. I was asking stuff I wanted to know as my future client, but didn't necessarily need in that moment of that first consultation. So I allowed myself to just gather basic information. What is your name? What is your fiance's name? When is the date of this event? I would ask, what is your guilty pleasure? Because if they were coming into my office to meet with me in person, I wanted to see if I could have that guilty pleasure for them, right? Whether it's a cupcake, a certain beverage, a chocolate, I would want to try to do that. Also, if you're doing it virtual, you also would have several PDF samples of what it is you offer ready and available to show them. So that if you know their event is at a certain venue or a certain situation, you want to be able to have some documentation or some samples ready to show that client. The next section is called lawyering up. It's a saying in the industry of law that you do 4 hours of research for a 1-hour trial. And it's not to be so dramatic, but I want you to remember that if you get an inquiry for someone who's doing an event or was referred to you by a certain event planner or through someone via social media, reach out to those places or people or venues. Ask them, hey, tell me a little bit about this couple. Also, thank them for taking the time to make you one of the people they referred, and try to do a little due diligence on them. Maybe even go on social media and see what you could find out about them. Are they fans of a certain football team or sports team? Do you see that they like a certain type of beverage or alcohol? See what you could connect it with them so that you could have that as a connection point and stand out a little bit from everyone else. When you have that appointment set in place, try to do as many automated items as you can. And some of them for me are automatic emails with information as to where you'll be meeting, in person or virtual. Are there information on how to access your office space? Make sure they have what they need to successfully connect with you. Now that we did everything before the meeting, let's talk about the present. What happens during that connection with a potential client? I love to create a connection with them. And to me, that happens in many different steps of the game. If we're meeting someone at the door, I really want them to feel at home and I want them to feel comfortable. I ideally want to welcome them by their first names. I want to then offer them something to drink. I also want to make very quick small talk. Was easy to find? Any problems getting here? How are you feeling? How was the weather? Any kind of small conversation to get them feel at ease. And then I leave them alone for 2 seconds, right? Let's pretend they do want a beverage. I'll go get that. Let's pretend they're absolutely okay. I might get them a bottle of water anyways and just put it in front of them. I might get my notepad. Just give them a couple minutes to settle in. I always feel if I go to a location and it all comes out really quickly, it's a little off-putting for me. So I like to be able to connect with them for a second, have a little conversation with them really quick, and then give them a second just to settle in, look around, and feel the space out, right? Virtually might be kind of similar, but I might not necessarily step away. I might say, oh, give me a second, get some water, let them see what's going on, and just give them a little breathing space. If it's a physical meeting, this is just me, I'd like to engage as many senses as possible. If I'm in my office, I want to have some scent going on. I'm moved into a co-working space where I have my physical office, but I don't necessarily meet clients here. I'll meet them in one of our common areas, or I'll meet them in one of our conference rooms. Believe it or not, I'll get there a couple minutes before, I'll get my stuff in order. I'll actually have a room spray. I'll spray the room, I'll close the door, I'll walk out, I'll meet the client, and then I'll bring them into that space. So I'm still, in my way, connecting with smell. Sight, what they see. Does it look clean? Is your computer all scratched up? Is your notepad looking like it was from 2001? Make sure things match what you're trying to present, right? In my office, I always had music playing. In this case scenario, if I'm meeting them in person, I might have something in the background very low, Virtual, maybe not so much. That could be a little distracting, but I do like to connect with sound. Touch doesn't work necessarily virtual, but if you're presenting products or albums or anything that shows your service, how does it feel? Does it feel new? Does it feel old? Taste is a little hard unless you're in person and you offer them something to drink of that nature, but consider when connecting with them, all their senses to be able to really dive into all the areas of that, right? So one thing that I thrive on is looking at all the details. You might sometimes do something in how it works for you, but sometimes you have to step outside of that and look at it with a much more critical eye. Are things broken? How new are they? How old are they? Always consider all the little details. Is there an option for them to grab a mint, like a little bowl? How much can you take to that initial first meeting in person or virtual to stand out? So my goal is my intention and make sure I'm the one leading the meeting. That doesn't mean there can't be questions, but that means that I have a very set out plan for that meeting. I want to inquire and get to know about the couple. I want to get to know about their event. That meeting sounds a little controlling, but it really is to make sure that you get to know what you need. You probably need a lot of information to make sure you know you could do your job, or you could properly offer them the correct type of proposal if that's what this is about, right? So lead that conversation, interview the client intentionally. I usually have a document printed out that has a bunch of fields for me to fill out so that I can make sure I get everything I need. And also remember that later on when we move forward to the next phase, whether it's proposal or the actual event, and I have all the details they told me. It's good to also explain your agenda and say, listen, here's what's going to happen in today's meeting. We're going to go over the details of your event. I want to hear what ideas you might have, and then I'm going to share with you my services and collections. Let them know that this is something you do. This is your field. This is where you're expert in, and this is how we're going to go throughout the process. And let them know if there's any questions, you can bring them to me as we're going. I'll probably answer them at the moment, or I might save them for later and then move forward. But be the one leading that conversation so that they could have that confidence that shows you know what you're doing and you know how to take over the job. Questions you could ask your couples or clients to know more about them and learn about what they do. You could ask them, where do they like to shop? What are some of their favorite restaurants? Is your specific designer, whether it's clothes, home, art that they connect with? Where do they like to travel to? Get to know the couple and understand a little bit about their history. I always love to ask, how did you meet? When did you know? What was the moment where the question was asked, right? Think of questions you could ask that would help you learn about them and how you could best service that client. When you're asking questions, actively listen. Don't ask them to repeat things for you. Obviously, if there's a hearing issue, yes. But if you're listening to them, try to take notes. Make sure you inquire about their preferences and listen more than you speak. When you review your collections or your services, explain to them how they're going to work with you. Explain to them how they're going to reserve your services, what payment forms you take, the payment schedule. Explain anything that has to do with them becoming a client and completing your services. Whether there's a contract they'll have to fill out, a questionnaire, let them know what to expect. There's nothing worse than having to do something and then, oh, I'm going to need this document or this information. It's good to say, listen, this is how we work together. These are all the things I'm going to need from you. And this is how it's going to be finalized. And then once it's finalized, you'll get a digital copy. You'll get a printed copy. We'll send it to you in the mail. Give them everything they need to know on how they're going to work with you, what they're going to receive, and what they need to bring to the table. If you're working with a couple or a family, and it's a big investment, you might say to them, how does that sound? And just listen. Let them give you some feedback And maybe there's things you could adjust to fit that because maybe they didn't tell you earlier, right? And sometimes I say, how does that sound? They might tell me, and I'm gonna say, can I give you guys a couple of minutes to talk? Because I feel sometimes when you have a couple or a family and the person who's providing that service is in front of them, they just might need a private moment to review this together. So say, hey, I'm gonna give you guys a couple of minutes. I'll be right back. I'm gonna get a glass of water, a cup of coffee, and just step away. Virtually might not always work in that scenario, but definitely ask them, how does it sound? And go from there. In that case, they'll come back and then move forward and see where the conversation takes you. Now, I always like to explain how to move forward. I might say, I'm going to send you a link with a type form to fill out some information. From there, I get a contract. Then I give you the option to reserve services, and then we move forward from there. Let's talk about ways to stand out after you reserve service. So now, I feel that the more genuine you are, the more connected you'll be with your client. So sometimes a physical card is an option if you have an address. Sometimes an email is an option as well, but genuinely thank them for taking the time to meet with you. Let them know that, hey, we understand that there's a lot of people you might be meeting with, but we personally are very grateful and thankful you took the time to connect with us and let us provide you with the opportunity to service your event. Also, thank the referral source. Thank the person who allowed this client to come to you and let them trust you as a business. Now, in your contract, make it easy for them and match their terms. For example, I have everything on a digital platform where they could sign it electronically. I think that's one of the easiest ways to do it, but whether it's in the mail format, email, DocuSign format, let them be able to finalize things in the easiest way possible. I love gifting clients. So when someone comes on board my company and our services, I love to be able to provide them with some sort of gift box or customized item that will let them know that I appreciate their time and their trust and investment in my company. Ideas you could bring on board with gifting would be gourmet snacks, wine or champagne, candles or soaps, cufflinks or a robe, magazine or a book. But try to, if you can, bring that in from what you learned about them. If you're able to customize that a little bit, I think it's going to just give you an added edge in your business and industry. Try to also keep it on brand if you can and make it personal. So in my industry as a photographer, I remember showing my clients the link to view their photos. Like, oh, this is so nice, but I never heard much about it after that. And then in the studio space we decided, what if we brought everyone in, not only the couple, but maybe the parents, maybe some of the key players in the wedding, maid of honor, the best man. Why don't we do a viewing party? And why don't we allow them to come into our studio? We'll do a beautiful slideshow, about an hour and a half, and let them celebrate again and relive some of those beautiful moments from their wedding in our studio. One, it brings more people into my office space. They get to know me, see where I'm at. They get to see the final product and experience some beautiful moments. This might be feasible for some people, might not be feasible for others, but it really stood apart from what other people were doing by just sending a link. There's also some technology stuff that I like to use. One that I was given by Erica, which was called Typeform. It's a beautiful platform that's really simple and elegant. Another one I love is Calendly.com. It's a scheduling platform, beautiful, works with many of your platforms. For those of you who like things to look neat and beautiful, like me, Tiny.cc allows you to create a clean forward-facing URL, and on the back end, have an exaggerated long link to something you might need them to fill out or view. Why I like Tiny.cc is because you could go back and edit that back-end link if ever it changes. Another one I like, if you're having to communicate with your client via text message and you don't want it on your phone, is called freecarrierlookup.com. What's nice about this one is you could take someone's mobile number and it could be converted into an email, and you could be emailing them back and forth. Meanwhile, they're getting text message on their phone, and you have a beautiful ongoing archive of everything you communicated with them in your email base. So those are different websites that I like to use when it comes to technology. And that kind of wraps it up: pre, present, and post. That kind of covers the 3 areas. So Larissa, Erica, anything I need to review, any questions to answer? Talk to me, háblame.
Thank you so much for that amazing masterclass. Like, how amazing is Manolo? Let's just give him a round of applause right here, because all of those tips were so good. We have a lot of clients too that were wondering, what is luxury? What is luxury experience? A lot of people think it's a lot of pretty branding, nice design, but there's a lot of work that goes into having the client feel like they are really being taken care of.
For those clients who are not fully aware or don't live in that world, one thing I think is really great to do is to put yourself in it. And one of the most cost-effective ways to do that is to go, if it's in your area, to a luxury high-end mall. I don't need you to spend any money. I need you to experience each store for yourself. You walk in, how do they greet you? What do they say to you? What do they offer you? How do they hand you something? Go to the most luxurious high-end mall in your area and just walk around.
So I love this. It's about how you make the client feel. And that's what they remember. I loved your point about being transparent with your clients about your work and seeing that you can connect with them to stand out from everyone else. My question is, how is it that you can connect with your clients and you keep that client retention while also fostering those relationships so that way your clients can continue to come back to you for photography needs?
Great question. This is going to sound a little strange. I have different types of clients, right? Some are in this celebrity A-list exposure, and everyone else is not. And that's completely fine. Again, that one is not better than the other. Believe it or not, my A-list celebrity clients, I treat them like everyday people. And I genuinely feel that way about them. So I do what the opposite is. I treat everyone else like an A-list celebrity, and my A-list celebrities, I treat them amazing, but I don't make a big deal about things, right? They're just people. They really are. And a lot of times that's what they want. They don't want to be made a big fuss. They want to just know that you're giving them the best service possible. Retention to me is connecting with them, is making sure that they know that what you're doing is 100% your best work, and knowing that you have their best interest. I realized as I went in this industry that I wasn't just taking photographs. My business has 3 pillars. It has family and children, wedding and socials, and it has commercial and advertising. And in that commercial and advertising world, I do a lot of work for magazines, for fashion brands. And I was working on a shoot, and I was actually assisting a photographer because it's someone I knew. And they say, hey, I'm looking for an assistant for these dates. I say, you know what? I'll do it. I don't necessarily work as an assistant for anyone, but you're someone I know. I'll do this for you. And what was really funny is I was the digital technician. And as he was photographing the model, I was actually telling the model what to do. Turn this way, bend the knee, pull this back. And someone goes to me, you should be an art director. I was like, what's an art director? Because I didn't know what that term meant. And the moment I realized what that meant, I realized I've been doing it for 15 years. As a photographer, I never just wanted to take photos. I wanted to make sure everything matched what I was trying to achieve. Location, wardrobe, styling, hair and makeup, everything. My clients see what I do, and they see how detailed and invested I am with the final product, that when they ask me something, I'm not going to tell them yes, just because they like that outfit or they want that location. I'm going to be honest with them because I am what I call a greedy photographer. I want great photos. You're going to, as a result, get good photos too. But I want to make sure that if I'm taking a photo, I'm going to like it. I'm going to want to make sure it's on my portfolio. Erica's contest to this. We did a photo shoot. She looked absolutely gorgeous. I was like, oh, this is great, but I want to do this. And it's not because she wanted it, it's because that's what I wanted. So they see my investment level and my interest level is sincere. And I want to make sure it's a great photo. So that's what retains that client is my investment level and genuine care for what I'm doing.
I want to just add a few things to that because there was a couple of things that stuck out to me. What Manolo was talking about being honest is in his other interview that we did together was talking about he sees a beauty in people that they might not see themselves. So whereas I always keep my hair like this, very sleek and down, he had me flip over and he just fluffed up my hair and let it be wild. And in that picture, like you can see my wildness, right? So I think within the world of Manolo, what he's talking about is everything is thought of and considered. Nothing is happening just because, like, he's thought about how he wants to work with his clients, what he wants to share, the way he wants to help them show up and be their best selves. When I'm doing a shoot with Manolo, he comes over and he moves me. He'll push me around and I'm like, okay. But then when I see the result, I see, okay, now I know why he did that. And so now I trust him so much for the next time, just the attention to detail he has and the care and the thoughtfulness, as well as the years of experience and the wealth of information is where that retention builds from. And then related to that, what you were talking about is when you think of yourself as the art director, and there's a difference between being a photographer and an art director. And so when you were given that word, it elevated your own perception of the work that you're providing. And you realize, I've been this all along. This is why I do things differently. Related to that is in our community, we talk a lot about pricing. And you said, I just want to be able to do my best work. I want to show up at every phase of the process. I want to inform and guide people. I want to be able to do my best work. I had a very large client contract that I was working on a couple of weeks ago, and they at many points in the process were like, but you're so expensive. And I'm like, well, and then he's like, oh, I know that's the premium that comes along with working with you rather than somebody else. And so that was a really interesting concept. And then several other times, I would say things like, yeah, it's pricey, but I want to give you my best work. So for me to show up for you the way that you need me to show up, I need to charge what that is. All this just relates to luxury, and related to luxury is care, right? Because at the end of the day, like Larissa was talking about, luxury is not just cut and dry. It's not just the basics. It's not just a consultation. It's the experience of everything from the paper to the brand, to the communication, to the wording and pricing. I think a lot of our clients are afraid to be in that luxury category sometimes because they think that it's harder up there. It's not like this whole other world that exists. It's just about being your best self, being fully present, taking time to consider all of these different angles and these little pieces, giving yourself space and time to spend with less clients versus more. And so I just wanted to pull all these pieces out from what Manolo was talking about. And I have a question for you, Manolo. I have two, actually. The first one I want to ask is related to your consult. How does that shift or change based on the different type of client you're working with? So if you're doing like an editorial shoot versus a wedding, what changes or shifts in the way you're talking to people or the consult itself?
Great question. To me, that has to do with the end result. What are we wanting to achieve? And once I know that, then I can backtrack. So if I know I'm trying to get something that's very fashion forward, a very edgy and editorial, that's going to affect location, lighting, time of day, all those things.
And then any adaptations you can share for the virtual consult, because I know that you do a lot of in-person consults.
Yeah.
But for someone like me or some of our clients that are doing a lot of virtual, how can we up-level our experience in the Zoom call?
Great question. Prep, and prep, right? So prep with as much information that you can find out about what you're going to be doing, right? If you already know there's a venue in mind or a service you have to do, how much prep work can you do to learn about it? Two, how much can you prep for showing them samples of what they want or what you're thinking you want to offer them? So to me, it's really about how much can you prepare for that meeting and consultation, from educating yourself and then preparing yourself with documentations. Oftentimes when I'm going to be on a phone call or a video call, I will have my emails already ready to be sent. All I have to do is press send, right? So it's not as I'm on the call, I'm looking for the email, I'm opening the document, I'm looking for that draft, they're ready. I just press send. I'll say, all right, you should already have an email ready for you. How ready can you be to wow that individual, right? So it's all prep work and planning work before it begins.
Okay, this is one small question related to what you were talking about there. You do a lot of traveling. So I think that's really cool about you. And it's something that I think a lot of people admire. And you do many shoots or events that are in different locations that maybe you've never been before. So how do you show up prepared or show some level of mastery with that location, even if you've never worked there before?
Google Maps and Google Images. So one, if it's a venue or a location I'm not aware about or haven't been to before, Google Images. Second thing is Google Maps. I love a street view. I love to be able to see what those street looks like before I've been there, right? So I do my prep work. I also have a specific item that's related to the world of lighting, right? It's called Sunseeker. I could ping a date, I could ping a location, I could see where the sun will be at any given hour of that day. So I know where the sun will be, and if we're wanting to do a shoot, I'll know the best time of day. So everything goes back to doing your prep work and doing your education to what it is you're going to be providing to that client.
And just related to, say, in the wedding world, there's a lot of venues that people want to work at, but maybe they've never worked there before. And so the client may favor someone that's worked at that venue before. So how would you overcome that potential objection when you're talking to a client that you really want to work with?
That's a great question. I always say, listen, there's venues I've been to 100 times. And every single time, I'm going to try to create a unique and original image, a perspective, a moment, a creative process to that. Then I say the actual truth. I absolutely adore brand new venues because you're going to be the first one that gets to experience my creative approach and my vision to that space that I haven't been to before. And you're going to get a huge creative outflow because I haven't been there before. So actually, you're going to be benefiting more than anybody else, making me the first person to hire me to work at that location.
Okay, that's awesome. And so for everyone to see Manolo light up when he says that, that's like the best answer you could have, because people are going to be overwhelmed with your enthusiasm and be like, that's awesome, rather than, oh, he's never been there. Like, it makes it an exciting adventure. And I love that. And then my last question is related to corporate. So I know you do corporate work as well, where it's a B2B relationship. When you do your consultation for corporate, is there anything that changes within your selling process or how you show up or how you position yourself differently for corporate? Because I know that's a very different world.
So showing up, no, I'm still super professional, 5-star approach. On a conversation, I take out some of the emotion, right? So a B2B conversation is very matter of fact. It's availability, service, samples, right? They want to know that you could provide what you're saying you're going to provide and how much is it going to cost. It's a little more to the point. They want to know, can I hire you? Can I trust you? And will you deliver? So the part about maybe some of the prep work might be removed, right? When it comes to maybe their favorite beverage or things of that nature.
Yeah.
That's more just a personal relationship if I get to work with that client and the key person. But in the initial conversation, they really want to make sure, can you deliver? What is it going to cost? And can I trust you?
Okay, I have 2 more questions, sorry, and then I'll pass it over to Larissa for any she has. But this is related to personality. You have 2 very different sides to your personality, like the fun party Manolo that everyone wants to be friends with, and then the very serious, refined, elegant, professional type of way that you show up. Like, how do you show up as all of you without being so much? Like, how do you balance the 2 sides? Or do you mirror your clients? Like, how does that work?
You said it right at the end. I mirror the space I'm in. So if I'm at a networking event with industry professionals. It's fun, it's lively, it's energetic, it's exciting. I match that. If I'm working at a 5-star venue that's super upscale, it's specific and not a lot of that, I'm going to match that. So my personality is all in there. I might not just put it all out depending on where I'm at in the space. So I read the room.
I love that. Larissa, do you have any questions that you haven't asked yet?
Yeah, so I'm gonna pivot here because we're gonna go back to clients, and I'm curious as to how do you handle challenging or demanding clients while also maintaining your commitment to delivering an exceptional client experience?
Yeah. So I think it has to do with matching their energy to an extent. So example, I had an engagement portrait session. And in this engagement portrait, I noticed the groom-to-be was a little reserved. And that's super, super common. So I had to make sure that he knew where I was coming from. So I explained, listen, this is my approach. I guarantee you're going to have fun. And I tell them, I see things in a very specific way, and I see beauty in so many places. But how I see you is not how you see you. So I need to make sure that as we go through this process, you give me honest feedback, because then I know how you see you. So at first, this groom-to-be was a little standoffish. Second set of photos, he got a little more comfortable. So I noticed as I kept on proving that he looked good, he kept becoming much more comfortable with what we were doing. So fast forward 3 outfits later, we wrapped up. And he says, I had so much doubt when you first walked in here because I didn't believe you when you said I was going to have fun. He goes, I had such a great time. I didn't think it was going to be that much fun, but you made it so great. To me, it was meeting him where he was at, explaining my process, and making sure he understood that his involvement with giving me feedback were critical to what we were doing.
I love how when Larissa says challenging client, you go to the quiet client. What about the client that's the opposite, that's like in your face or wants to direct the process? How do you deal with that situation?
I had a couple who hired another photographer for their wedding. They did their engagement portraits and they weren't happy with how it turned out. So that planner called me and explained the situation, and they hired me. Going into this engagement portrait, I was like, oh my God. But same thing. I said, listen, I'm going to be as good as you let me be, because your feedback to me will allow me to make sure you show up in your best form. And in this case, the bride was a little hard to read, and I couldn't tell if she liked what was going on. So she'd say, oh, I like it, but there wasn't a, yes, I love it. Oh my God, it's amazing. Yeah. There was a lot of, oh, I look a little heavy. Oh, I don't like this. So every time she gave me a feedback, I would tweak her posing, the situation, the angles to get there. Shoot was over, and she followed up with the event planner and said, everything went well. I sent her the photos. She says, I love them. Again, sure. A week later, the planner goes to the bride's home along with her mom, and then she raved about me for about 15 minutes. You don't know how happy I am, but it goes back to communication. At least in the case of photography, I'm big about communicating and guiding and feedback. When it comes to clients that might be a little maybe pushy or annoying or aggressive, I just go with the flow. I let things roll off my back. I don't take things personal, and then I move forward.
Okay, I have a tactical question, which is for photographers in our group, a lot of them struggle with this initial investment. Say it's for an event like a wedding, and they have a pricing tier, but then they realize, oh, I could add so much to my bottom line by the art and everything else that I can sell in the secondary sale. So not to go into too much detail, but do you have any quick tips about the difference between the initial sale and then the upsell at your reveal appointment that might be helpful for somebody who struggles with that?
Sure. For me, I'm big about products. I feel that if you're offering a service as a wedding or family portraits, to me, something physical is becomes invaluable. I ask people, hey, would you allow me to buy your parents' wedding album from you? No. There's no way I would sell that. Right. It's invaluable. I say that because if the house is burning down, you're going to run back and grab those albums. To continue on that, I'm big on albums. All the collections I offer for weddings have an album. Now, I say that so it's important to offer what you want to deliver. If you want to create more, as I do as a full service studio, provide that. And if for you, it's important to have one specific item included, it could be a wall art, it could be physical prints, it could be a canvas, include that so that you know that when you provide that service, you're like, yes, they have everything they're going to need. But if there's more you want to provide, make that available and let them know it's going to be available, that they could always make that decision later. Again, be clear with the process and how things are going to unfold.
And is there intentionality between having that reveal appointment where you're all together and you're experiencing this together for the first time? Is there any relation to that with selling any of those additional products, or is that just a separate conversation? Does that happen later? How does that work for you?
So for me, that reveal appointment is a couple of things. One, it's being tied to an amazing memory, not only on the day, but on the moment they saw their photos. Yes, I was a photographer, but I'm also there with them when they get to see their photos. Two, it's building that trust with them. And sometimes showing them the physical products and say, hey, listen, this is what's included. And these are other things we could also create from all these beautiful photos. So there's a lot of intentionality behind it. It's almost as if you've ordered a custom gown from a boutique. And instead of it arriving at your house, you go into the boutique and you get to try it on. And then they get to say, that would look really great with these earrings or these shoes or this necklace, right? So it's as a professional saying, hey, this is amazing and this is what you're getting, but this photo would look amazing over the couch.
Yeah.
So it's being able to connect that service.
And I think too, when you invite the client into the boutique, so to speak, you're also providing an experience again versus shooting off that gallery and letting them open it up. If you bring that beautiful couture gown home and you open it up and there's like cat hair on the bed, like now we've just destroyed this whole experience. Whereas you're in the boutique and now you have the lighting and you have the beautiful experience of the big mirrors, and it just lands differently when you're in that environment. So
and that being said, the clients who are either out of state or international, we have an email that talks about experience your portraits, what to do, how to set the room, how to set yourself up with snacks or beverages, how to bring people over, like bringing the right kind of people over, how to turn the noise off while you're viewing these photos. So we give them a opportunity to follow some guidelines to virtually create an intimate and memorable, beautiful space if they're not physically with us.
love it. I think Larissa has one more question.
Yeah. Last question here. In your business and in your experience, as you scale up and get more clients, how do you continue to ensure that the quality of your service and your connection with your clients continues to remain consistent?
To me, it goes back to creating a workflow, listing all those steps that need to be checked off to make sure we're consistently delivering what we say we're going to, from the pre, the present, and the post, right? I use a platform for my business called Tave, T-A-V-E, and we've put all those check marks and workflow into our system. So when we have a client, we go into their profile and we look at all the things that are pending and we check them all off to make sure they get done.
Love it.
Yeah.
That's amazing. And okay, I'm going to add one more tiny one. So for some photographers, when they hear the number, 25 weddings can be a lot. And so how do you take care of yourself behind the scenes in order to show up with the same energy and grace and ease and personality that you have and not running yourself ragged behind the scenes?
One is support, is having people support you, making sure you know what you have to do where your energy level is and how you're able to be supported in those areas. So when I personally do a wedding, how I approach it is I'm going to work an 8-hour shift. I'm going to have another photographer. They're also going to work an 8-hour shift, and we're going to overlap in some of the most important moments. And I'm going to have an assistant. So I'm going to make sure that I have someone working with me for my lighting and for my gear. Post-wedding, there's another process to make sure I'm not the only one doing all the work. I'm going to have support in different areas to make sure we do that. On a wedding day, I don't do anything else. I chill. I have a fantastic meal. I take a great shower. I make sure like I'm dressed like one of the guests. I do my work, I do my shift, and then I move on, and then I go forward and I rest. So I make sure that planning in the pre, the moment, and the post of that event, I'm able to give 100%. I try not to book something the evening before an event to make sure that I'm at 100% focused for that day.
I love it. Thank you so much, Manolo, for being here and for sharing. I just feel like even the Q&A, there's so much gold in that, as well as your masterclass itself. And we just want to thank you so much from the bottom of our hearts for coming in and sharing your wisdom.
Thank you, ladies, and thank you, community, for letting me be here. Any questions you have, you know how to get a hold of me. Thank you for your time, energy, and focus.
Thank you so much. And we'll see you all soon, guys.
All right, take care, everybody. Bye-bye.